Welcome to the How of Business with your host, Henry Lopez, the podcast that helps you start, run, and grow your small business. And now, here is your host.
Welcome to this episode of the How of Business. This is Henry Lopez, and I'm looking forward to introducing all of you to Jodi Arrant. Jodi is one of my new trusted service partners, and we're going to talk about bookkeeping today because that's what she does with her business. So on this episode, we're diving into one of the most important but often relegated, and I'm guilty of that as well, one of the most often important and relegated parts of any successful small business, and that's having well-managed, accurate, and timely financials. And it starts with bookkeeping. So I'm joined by an expert bookkeeper and consultant, Jodi Arrant. And together today on this episode, we're going to break down common bookkeeping mistakes, some year-end considerations, and I have a special announcement for a new bookkeeping service that I'm now making available to all of you. So we're going to chat about that as well as the services that Jodi offers. So we've got some special announcements here and share with you some tips and advice on bookkeeping in general. You can find all of the business resources, including the show notes page for this episode. That's where you'll find links to Jodi and links to this new bookkeeping service. And also to learn more about my one-on-one and group coaching programs, just go to thehowofbusiness.com. I also invite you to consider supporting this podcast and joining our business community on Patreon and subscribe wherever you might be listening so you don't miss any new episodes. So let me tell you a little bit more about Jodi. Jodi Arrant is the founder of Jodi Arrant Consulting, a bookkeeping and consulting firm based in Eugene, Oregon. She has over 17 years of experience in bookkeeping, payroll, and QuickBooks consulting. Jodi specializes in helping small businesses streamline their finances so that you can focus on growth. Jodi is passionate about empowering entrepreneurs to find clarity and confidence in their numbers while giving them the freedom to focus on what they do best, which is to run your business. So once again, Jodi Arrant, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, Jodi and I have gotten to know each other now here over the last few months, as I mentioned briefly, and I'll give you more details on. She's now one of my new trusted service providers for bookkeeping and is going to provide the bookkeeping behind the scenes, actual bookkeeping for the new booking service that I'm about to roll out. But let's get started with Jodi. I'm always curious. We're not going to do a deep dive into your entrepreneurial journey. We're going to do that probably in the next episode. But I am curious, how did you end up becoming a bookkeeper and why?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a unique story. I started working at a small independent pharmacy, and the owners really put a lot of trust in me, and I think they saw something in me, so they gave me a lot of opportunities. They trained me to be the bookkeeper, run payroll, pay the bills in the office. They worked with me side by side, giving me that hands-on training. They also even enrolled me in some bookkeeping, QuickBooks, and management classes as well. And so they really gave me the tools to learn what I needed to really become successful in this field. And I really carried that with me along the way. And so it was kind of not really expected, but just kind of fell into my lap almost.
You discovered it. What, because I think that to be an accountant, bookkeeper, to be a person that likes numbers, I think that, I don't know, maybe you're born with it or not, but what appealed to you about it? What was it about it that appealed to you?
I always loved the idea of working in an office and working on a computer. When my grandma had her own business, and so I would work in her office with her and have my fake paperwork and pretend like I had my own office. And so I think I always loved that concept of just working and feeling like I was in an office and on a computer. So when I started learning bookkeeping, it really felt like that to me. And so I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed doing bookkeeping, not that I'm a bookkeeper, and the financial side of things, because I enjoy the precision of it. I love like even personally in my life, even when I was younger, I always liked to balance my checking account to the penny, right? That's just a personality type, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fun too when a client comes to us with messy books and we get to untangle and kind of dig in and see what's going on there. And then we get to present it back to them as clean and organized. It's a really good feeling.
Oh yeah, and what it does for a business owner to have those insights is wonderful, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But I thought I'd get from your definition, your perspective, what is bookkeeping in a small business? What does that entail at a high level?
Absolutely. I think the core bookkeeping tasks are general ledger management, bank reconciliations, accounts payable and accounts receivable, of course, payroll if that fits your business model, sales tax for the locations that have it. In Oregon, we don't have sales tax, but we do have clients that we work with that have sales tax. And then also just reviewing reports and understanding the numbers of your business.
General ledger, if that's a term I don't understand, explain that to me.
Yeah, so that's basically just coding and categorizing all the transactions. So your general ledger is like your bank register.
I see it. I refer to it often as using the chart of accounts that then I see when I run, let's say, a profit and loss report. It's that categorization of all the money coming in and going out of the business. Is that fair?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. And that's why we need to categorize those transactions so that then I can see where's the money coming from and where is it going.
Exactly. Yeah.
And bookkeeping is the process of managing all of those transactions, if you will, and putting it in the right buckets.
Correct. Yeah. It's very important that you're coding everything correctly, especially when you're looking at profit and loss versus balance sheet. So your expenses could end up as an asset, or, your assets could end up as an expense, or loans aren't being booked correctly. So it's definitely very important to know how to code and categorize things correctly.
Yeah, loan, you touched on that, so I just want to explore that for a moment. Loans is always such a good example because, and that's often where people get confused as to how does the P&L help me, profit and loss statement, and how does it not? But just explain that the fact that when I make a payment on a loan, that gets categorized. There's parts of that get categorized differently, right? Walk me through that if you would.
Yeah, exactly. So the loan yourself is going to be on your balance sheet, but your expenses are also on your profit and loss. So there's two different ways to look at it. When you're looking at your profit and loss, you're looking at all the money that's going in and out of your business. When you're looking at your balance sheet, you're looking at what assets do you have, what liabilities do you have, which is, also what a loan is, and you're looking at what money you have in your bank accounts as well, and the equity you have in the business.
And if I'm making like $1,000 loan payment, it's only the interest portion of that that shows up in my P&L. The rest is a reduction. And here's where a bookkeeper understands how to book that $1,000 that went out, a reduction of that liability, but that doesn't show up. The principal payment does not show up on the P&L, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's going to deduct from the balance sheet side.
Yeah. So those are the kind of things that are tricky. That's what a bookkeeper understands to process and categorize all of these different transactions. Yeah.
Yep, that's correct.
Let's talk about some of the common mistakes. I'm sure you see all kinds of things as I do, for all good reasons. So this isn't about shaming anybody. There's so many people that I coach and talk with who have challenges with either not being up to date with their bookkeeping, or they take the shoebox of receipts approach, and then here's to the CPA once a year.
Yeah.
All kinds of reasons why. Let's start with just the inconsistencies of record keeping. Let's say what are some of the common things you see?
Yeah, I mean, I think not reconciling your bank account is probably one of the most common things we see. People don't realize they need to reconcile their bank account, but that's probably one of the most important things you can do. It's basically like balancing your checkbook. So you're checking to make sure there's no missing or duplicated transactions. And so it's a very important piece that needs to be done every month.
Great that you touch on this because I also think when I talk to business owners about hiring somebody like you to be their bookkeeper and then having a CPA, one of the things I always say to keep your finger on the pulse of where the money is going is to be involved some way or another in the reconciliation, because that's where you see where the money is flowing. Is that fair? Is that something you recommend as well?
Absolutely. I think that it's important for them to review the books and have a good handle on it. They don't necessarily have to be a part of the reconciling process, but at
Sure.
least look at the reports and make sure everything looks clear and accurate to them as well. I think it's important for business owners to know where their finances are.
I think the thing that might also happen, Jody, because now if I'm using a platform like QuickBooks Online and I connect my bank account, it just flows down automatically. So it's like, well, why do I have to reconcile? It does it automatically, but there's still work to be done there, right?
Oh, absolutely. And one thing about that bank feed, if it gets disconnected and the bank connection's broke, there's lots of times during that time when the connection is broken, it's not pulling in transactions and it may not bring those in after you reconnect it. And you may not realize that until you go into reconcile. So you're going to have several transactions that aren't even in QuickBooks that you thought
I
might be
see.
in there.
It doesn't necessarily catch up, is what you're saying, is what you see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can attest to the fact that connection, for whatever combination of reasons, part of it I suppose is security, but whatever, it does get disconnected, and that's a great point. The other thing that happens is while QuickBooks and your bookkeeper, of course, are learning and memorizing, there are new transactions that you can't categorize without some additional information, right?
Yes, absolutely. We use what we call an Ask Client category. And so we'll put all the transactions that we're unsure about in that category. And then at the end of the month, we send our client a report and they can review and get back to us with feedback on what those transactions are.
Speaking of common mistakes, I'm sure you see this one. I see this where that ask your accountant, whether because they're doing the bookkeeping themselves or whatever, builds up. And then at the end of the year or next year is when they look at it. And I forgot what the heck that transaction was from last quarter or 2 quarters ago or 4 quarters ago.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's why it's important to keep on top of that. If your bookkeeper's not already reaching out to you on a regular basis, I would reach out to them at least quarterly and review things like that. Do you have any uncategorized transactions, any questions, any nuances? And there's a lot of times too when we try our best to categorize things, but we're not always mind readers. So we may not put something in the right place. So it's smart to go through that with the client and make sure that we've actually categorized some of those transactions correctly.
Agreed. And then part of your point of me as the owner, if I'm responsible for that, usually I am as the owner, unless I've grown to the point where I've got somebody who handles the financial side of things or my partner does. When I'm reviewing those financial statements, you might have assumed that that Office Depot expense is office supplies, but it's like, no, 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 that was, whatever. I bought snacks at Office Depot or whatever the case might
Right.
be, right? So there's stuff like that. But if I catch it now, a lot better likelihood that it gets in the right category.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not going to remember something from a year ago and be like, was that actually a business meal or what was that?
Right. And of course, with business meals, since you bring that up, the one of the important things of categorizing that correctly is that actually is one of the few categories that gets deducted differently from the IRS perspective. So the IRS wants us to make sure we categorize that individually, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And if it's a personal meal, then you have to really just put that under an owner's expense. It's not a
Mm,
business expense. And
right.
I believe this year they're doing 50% of business meals is the tax deduction.
Yeah.
And they're pretty strict on the business meal category.
But so let's just talk about that because that's another one, as a bookkeeper, what do you think is a best practice there to document a business meal that I'm writing off?
Yeah, so anytime you're having a meeting, a business meeting, so you're talking about your business, you're discussing things, maybe you have other colleagues that you're working with, that is definitely a business meeting. Anytime you're meeting with a client to have coffee or a meal, that's a business meeting. There's also times if you have like an office and you have staff and you feed the staff and we're all working together, that's also considered a business meeting.
Now, my practice had been in the past, and I don't know who taught me this, and you're going to tell me if it's still valid or not, is I usually will take the receipt, if it's a credit card receipt, and jot down who was there and what was the purpose. And then I
That's a
keep
smart
that
thing to
receipt.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart thing to do because it also will be a reminder if you need to reference back to that, what that was for, who was there. It's just helpful in any case.
I can then nowadays I can digitize that, and QuickBooks provides that functionality. Digitize that so I don't have to actually keep the paper receipt. Correct?
Correct. Yeah, you can get the QuickBooks app on your phone and you can snap a photo every time and tie it right to a transaction.
Excellent, excellent. There was also features, of course, a lot of these newer banks, online banks or whatever. I use one of them. I use Novo, for example, has a lot of that functionality where I could capture that note directly tied to the transaction, so I don't have to even get a receipt. Yeah, and that
Yeah.
works as well. But does that kind of a note though? I don't think it gets downloaded to QuickBooks, does it?
I think it depends on the bank. I have
Okay.
seen some banks, I think Chase is one of them that actually does put in the description on the bank memo, but it just depends on the bank and how they process those transactions over.
Okay. All right. So I need to be aware of that. Now, it could be that I pay my bookkeeper to go and look at that, but then I would have to give them access to the bank account, which is not a good idea necessarily. So, what is the best practice there? Is it to, in fact, if I'm using QuickBooks, which is the platform that you're on, to go ahead and use that app to get a picture of the receipt that has the note? Is that the best practice you recommend?
You can do that. And there is a way to actually give your bookkeeper access to your bank that is secure. You can give
Okay.
them what we call view only access.
Okay.
So they can actually view anything on your bank account, but they can't make any adjustments. They can't transfer any funds. They can't do anything on there. They can just look at statements and look at activity as
All
well.
right. So that might be the way to do it. If you are using that functionality of one of these banks, then that could be a way to do it. And then part of the instructions that I'm giving my bookkeeper is to go there for any notes on those types of transactions.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I'm looking at my notes here of things that I wanted to talk about. Mixing personal and business is such a big one, what we call commingling. Tell me what you've seen there, and then let us talk about, what to avoid. What are some of the mistakes that sometimes people make, maybe not even thinking about it, that falls into this category of commingling of funds?
Well, I think the first one is just not having a separate business bank account.
Mm.
That's probably the first piece because we're trying to decipher what's personal, what's business, and it's all in one bank account. And that makes it really messy for the bookkeeper and really messy for the owner as well. How do you know which is which? So I think the first thing is definitely having a separate business bank account.
Such a huge point because again, at least to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no law. The IRS doesn't say you have to have a separate bank account, right?
No, you
And a
don't.
lot of times I get pushback from this one with sole proprietors are saying, well, I don't want that complexity. And, but really nowadays, especially with banks that don't charge you any kind of a monthly fee, you're just making this more complicated than it needs to be, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's super easy to open a business bank account. You can go down to your current bank, or you could even go to a credit union if you're worried about fees and set up a business account, and it just makes life so much easier.
Yeah. That way, to your point, much easier to know everything going through this bank account is a business transaction or should be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What are other examples have you seen where people combine personal with business?
Yeah, I would just kind of going back to like meals, people are trying to remember, was this a business meal? Was this not? Same thing with supplies, going to Walmart or, some of those types of places. That can be a mixture of groceries and office expenses. And so I think it's really important that they separate out those transactions because it's hard to differentiate
Yeah.
if it's all lumped
Yeah.
together. And I see that a lot.
Yeah. So one of the things I think people struggle with, and I didn't put it on the list, but it just came to mind here, Jodi, as I was going through this. And it's a challenge for all of us. Typically, I try to put business expenses on either the business credit card or the debit card, or of course, it's paid directly out of the bank. But sometimes I might not have my business card with it and I put it on a personal card. Or I might travel for business and use my personal card. The practice that I've used is to, in essence, then create an expense report that I submit to the business and get reimbursed for that with all of the receipts, all of the documentation. Is that a good best practice, or what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it because it's like a reimbursement. It's not like you're trying to use personal funds to pay for expenses. You're actually showing an accurate expense report. You're reimbursing yourself, just like you might reimburse an employee if they had to purchase something for the business. So that
It
would
would
definitely be
not
the
be
best
good
way.
for me to pay my personal Citibank credit card out of the business bank account. That is dangerous in my opinion, but what are your thoughts there?
I agree. I see a lot of clients that do that, and I don't think that that's best practice either. I really think it's better to pay yourself and then pay the credit card that way rather than paying it directly from the business account.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay. For people who have started their business, there's all of these expenses that we accumulate that, of course, are on our personal cards because we may not even have a bank account yet.
Right.
And then do you help as part of the bookkeeping to get all of that onto the books, if you will? Is that part of what you do with catch up bookkeeping, or is that something where the CPA has to be involved, or both?
No, we actually help with that. I've had a lot of clients come to me and they started on a spreadsheet and they did only have a personal bank account. And so we were able to take the information from the spreadsheet, upload that into QuickBooks, and get that set up for them and organized.
Excellent, excellent. All right, let's shift to year-end bookkeeping. It happens as we're recording this that we're in
Yes.
fourth quarter. So from a bookkeeping perspective, what are some things to consider for us as a small business owner as it comes to
Yeah.
year end?
I think just reviewing your reports, going through, looking and seeing if you have any transactions, again, kind of like we mentioned in the uncategorized or ask client category. And then also schedule a meeting with your bookkeeper and CPA and sit down and just review everything together. Your CPA can also be super helpful in, looking at tax deductions, looking at your IRA and 401k contributions, see if you can put any more in to help with tax deductions. And then also thinking about 1099s. It's never too early to get prepared
Mm.
for that. So, if you're paying contractors throughout the year and you pay them over $600, you have to send them a 1099. So, you'll need to collect W-9 information from all of those contractors. And unfortunately, you only have like a month to get those out. They're
Right.
due
Those have to go out
January
by the end of
31st.
January. Is that right?
Yeah, January 31st. So,
Mm.
if you started now collecting that W-9 information, that's going to give you a great head start on that as well.
Great points. And the thing is, if your CPA even can't give you guidance if your books aren't up to date, right? So
Exactly.
you've got to have some idea, where am I going to end up profitability wise? Do I need to think about strategies to offset those profits? But if my books are up to date and I'm blind to that, and it takes me into next year to figure that out, well, it might be too late to take some action at that point.
Yeah, at that point, your CPA is probably going to recommend that you file an extension and spend that time getting caught up because once, they hit January, they're super busy. They're not going to have time to mess around with all of that.
But if you wait to then all you're doing is being reactive. You're not able to be proactive of what you might have been able to do if it, especially related to minimizing your tax burden.
Exactly. If you start preparing now, you can actually get some advice on how you can find more deductions before the end of the year. You can start, getting those expenses in, adding extra contributions to your 401k or IRA, all of that. So, yeah, you have to do that before the end of the year. You can't do that after.
Excellent. Anything else that comes to mind for year end, or those are the key things you wanted us to know about?
I think those are the key things really to think
Okay.
about, just reviewing and looking at those points.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. Let's move on to this announcement that I alluded to, and it's because of Jodi's help that she's helped me put together this program that I'm offering now, the How a Business bookkeeping service. And so behind the scenes, I'm not pretending to be a bookkeeper, nor do I necessarily have bookkeepers on staff. I have partnered with Jodi for her expertise and the expertise of her team. She and her team, they're certified QuickBook experts, and they are bookkeepers. This is what she does. So the exciting thing is that now I have developed, and we're going into the initial rollout of the How a Business bookkeeping service. And this is going to be and is a technology-driven, all online bookkeeping service for small business owners. So if you've been challenged with a lot of the things that we've been talking about here, getting your finances in order, being behind on bookkeeping, maybe you have a bookkeeper that hasn't been as responsive, maybe he or she was initially and now they're not, and you're several months behind, you're not using your financials to help you make business decisions. And even if you maybe have it in-house, there's a lot more valuable things you could be doing with your time than doing the bookkeeping. And that's often why I see that business owners get behind, because A, it's not what we want to do, nor is it our core competency. We want to be doing things related to building and growing the business. So if that's you, then you might well be a great fit for the early access program, which is how we're starting the rollout of the How a Business bookkeeping service. And so it's going to provide the essentials: monthly bookkeeping, a lot of what Jodi has explained and covered that a bookkeeper performs, the ability to then run, of course, financial reports. And we're going to also have a very powerful but specific KPI dashboard to help you interpret those financial numbers. We're going to do this all on the QuickBooks Online platform. So it's a trusted platform that's comprehensive. It works. You might like another platform, but I'm telling you, QuickBooks Online works, and there are others that work as well. That's Jodi's area of expertise as well, and it's what I've used throughout the years as I've been a business owner. We're going to have 24/7 online support, and it's a flat monthly subscription for this program. So what you get is what you would expect from a bookkeeping service. You'll have accurate books every month. It does require some work on your part because, as the bookkeeper highlights, like she said, the ask your accountant transactions that need more input to be categorized, you'll have to contribute there. But the bookkeeper behind the scenes is there to help with that and identify those few transactions that might need additional input from you. It's going to be professionally supported, as I said, by QuickBooks certified bookkeepers. That's what Jodi brings to the picture, and that support, online support, will be there. So that's why I've brought on Jodi, and I'm glad that you all get to meet her today on this episode. You'll always have control. So that's the other thing I hear often from people is, I can't access my reports only when I get them once a month from my bookkeeper. That is horrendous. So you'll always have access to your QuickBooks Online. It remains your data. And if at some point in the future you don't want the service anymore, that data is yours. You take your QuickBooks Online control back and you can continue using it or take it wherever you want. So you'll have, with this level of service, more time to do what you need to do, focus on growing your business, and let us, with Jodi and her team behind the scenes, take care of the bookkeeping for you, so that then you've got timely and accurate financial reports and KPI dashboard to help you make those business decisions. Did I miss anything there on what we're including, Jodi, before I go into the early access program? I think I covered all the bases there, but any thoughts there?
No, I think you included everything. I think it's going to be great for anybody that's really looking for that help in bookkeeping and needs something fast too.
Exactly, exactly. By the way, the early access program, which I'm going to describe here, is for, the basic needs. If you need more involved or complex bookkeeping services, Jodi has a special offer as well, and we'll get to that in a moment because she is, again, my trusted service provider for bookkeeping. But what I'm doing initially here, and this is the first announcement of it, is we're going to limit it to about 10 initial clients. And the criteria is to qualify is that you're either currently on QuickBooks Online, so you currently have a subscription, or you have no accounting system, either because you're just getting started or just been kind of tracking things in a spreadsheet. Now, there's a base amount of a couple of hours of free onboarding. Beyond that, then what Jodi will do is she'll quote you on what you might need separately to get you caught up if that's what you need. But it's the essential bookkeeping services. And we're going to do this on QuickBooks Online, and you have to just commit to a 6-month subscription. So it's a monthly subscription of $249 a month. You can connect up to 4 bank or credit card accounts, and that usually suffices for most small business owners. And be comfortable that this is all online. So if you need support, you'll submit a support request or speak to us through the chat or communicate with the bookkeeper through the QuickBooks Online platform. That's how we're able to scale this and keep the subscription down to a reasonable cost for a small business owner. So if that sounds like you, then what I invite you to do is to go to thehowofbusiness.com. You're going to see various links, including at the show notes page for this episode at thehowofbusiness.com. Look for bookkeeping service, click on it, and submit an early access program application. It's going to walk you through several questions to make sure that you're a fit for what we're looking for now. And if you're not, we'll let you know and put you on the wait list for when we're able to bring you on under our expanded offering. There's no obligation then at that point in time, nor is there any obligation to fill out the application. And then we'll let you know, yes, you're a fit. And then we'll proceed with getting you onboarded. Early access part of this program is I'm waiving what will later be an onboarding fee. So I'm waiving that onboarding fee. And all you're going to do is once you sign up, if you qualify, is we'll start doing the monthly subscription for that $249 a month. So that is the initial early access program of the How of Business bookkeeping service. I'm excited to offer this. I see this for all of those you listening who are my coaching clients. I know the pain that a lot of you have, either because you're trying to do this yourself, or you have a bookkeeper that started out strong and now they're 2 or 3 months behind, or you don't have access to your financials. This begins to address that for you from a trusted source and experienced and certified bookkeepers. So go to thehowbusiness.com. You'll see it on the homepage, or go to the show notes page for this episode and click on the How of Business bookkeeping service link and submit the early access application. Again, we're going to limit it to about 10 clients, and I've already got a couple of folks that are in it already. So if you're interested and you think you're a fit, please go to thehowofbusiness.com. All right, excellent. So I'm so excited about that, Jodi, and thanks to you for helping me get to this point. You've been instrumental as I've developed this program with how do I do this? How do I deliver this service? And then, of course, providing the bookkeeping service behind the scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to work together. I think it's going to be a great service option for clients, and it's been a great process working together as well.
Appreciate it. And one of the reasons I picked Jodi, I've gotten to know her now over the last several months, is she, like me, is dedicated and focused on helping small business owners. And she's a small business owner herself, so she understands that and the specific needs of a small business owner. All right, so that's the How of Business bookkeeping early access program. If it's beyond that, if you are more complex or you need help with more, you have job cost accounting, or you have a bunch of catch-up work, or you've got, more than 4 bank accounts, a little bit more complexity, then I want Jodi to share a special offer she has. And if you'll mention that you heard about her on the howofbusiness.com, she's got a special promotion, limited offer for you as well. So tell us about that, Jodi.
Yeah, so for a limited number of clients that sign on, they'll get 10% off their first month of bookkeeping services with us.
Fantastic. And give us a little bit more on the ideal type of client that you look for. What does that typically look like, generally speaking?
Yeah, Yeah, so we're really not like a niche bookkeeping service. We don't work with just one industry. We look more at the size of the business, the capacity, and the type of services the client's looking for. Primarily, we do work with small businesses. We also work with some churches and small nonprofits as well. So it's really more the size of the business and the type of services they're looking for, as far as like full service bookkeeping. And we also provide QuickBooks consulting as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Great. So where do we go to learn more about you? I'll have a link on the show notes page, but if they want to go to your website, tell us that.
Yeah, it's jarrantconsulting.com, Jarrant consulting.com.
Yeah. So Arant is two R's, Jodi, Jodi, Arant. So tell me the website again.
Yes, jarrantconsulting.com.
Perfect. And I'll have a link to that on the show notes page for this episode at thehowofbusiness.com, as always. Okay, wonderful. Lots of information here that we've shared. Again, if you're interested in the How a Business bookkeeping service, go to thehowofbusiness.com. There's a whole page there that'll give you more information on the features and the benefits. So if you want to learn more about it, if you have questions, just fill out the contact form and I'll respond as quickly as possible. And if you think you're a fit and you're interested, click on the early access program button on that screen, on that page rather, and it'll take you to the application. It'll take you a few minutes to fill it out and it'll tell you probably right away as to whether you qualify or not. And then I'll follow up with you to schedule the onboarding. We're looking to do that here now in this last quarter and begin to bring on those new clients. The other advantage that I didn't mention, Jodi, is that these new initial clients rather will also help us in shaping where we take this, right? What to add, what features and functions and really services to add, because the features and functions are provided by the QuickBooks Online and by the bookkeeper. But how do we continue to make this a better and better service? As the initial clients, you're part of that process of giving us that feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's wrap it up, Jodi. Let's go back to the conversation we had about bookkeeping in general for small business owners. We talked about common challenges or mistakes that you've observed and some best practices. We talked about some year-end best practices. But let's go back to just generally in bookkeeping. What's one or two key takeaways that you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if there's one thing that you can take away is I think the most important thing that a small business owner can have is clarity and confidence in their books. Whether you are looking for a bookkeeper, you have a bookkeeper, or you're just going to take it on yourself, it's really important to have that clarity in your numbers so that you can run your business successfully.
You are doing yourself such a disservice. And again, we're not passing judgment. A lot of my clients have this challenge, and it's okay, but you can fix this.
Yep.
But boy, you're navigating blind when you don't have up-to-date financials. You really are. You're missing out on a key component of input to help you make business decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to apply for a loan or a grant, you have to have professional, clean, accurate financials as well. So it can really help with growth in your
Yeah.
business too.
One of the things I talk about so often on this podcast is understanding and determining if your business model is healthy. And I break that down in two parts. Are you sufficiently profitable and are you scalable? And if we look at just the profitable side of that, if you don't have accurate and timely financials and enough granularity in that to determine, this product line is killing me, this one is making a lot of money, how do I know to even invest or not invest or what to eliminate or what to add fuel to? You don't know. You're guessing. Now, you could argue, well, I've got a POS system that tells me, or I've just been doing this forever. I assure you, once you have that additional data point of accurate and timely financials, it really increases the benefit and the accuracy of your decision making.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, tell us again where you want us to go online to learn more about you and your services.
Yes, yeah, you can go to jarrantconsulting.com.
Jodi, thanks for being on the episode with me. You're going to be back on in the future to talk about some other related topics. And again, thanks for all the work that you have and we'll be providing as we roll out the How a Business bookkeeping service. Thanks for being with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
This is Henry Lopez, and thanks for joining me on this episode of The How of Business. My guest today again is Jodi Arrant. I release new episodes every Monday morning. You can find the show anywhere you listen to podcasts, including the How of Business YouTube channel and at my website, thehowofbusiness.com. Thanks again for listening.
Thank you for listening to The How of Business. For more information about our coaching programs, online courses, show notes pages, links, and other resources, please visit thehowofbusiness.com.